Well, hello and good morning. I'm hoping that audio is working with this, but I mostly want to just say a few things to kind of catch up on some videos I've been working with and, just sort of left them hanging. It's easy to do as you grow older. And I'm 71 today, so it's pretty awesome. And my favorite thing in the world, really, besides playing rhythm guitar lately, mostly, and is and writing songs. I wrote a new song called "Thank You." Not that I wanted to steal the title, but it's a religious song, and I'm playing it today in church using a Takamine acoustic, electric, and a mic and a little Fender Acoustasonic amp. Those are such nice amps, especially because they're tan like the old Fender amps. But so I'm going to do that. And speaking of, it's tough with this singing not to get too emotional and sort of like, you feel like crying a bucket of tears. And that can happen if the pitch is very good and you're surprising yourself. I do recall asking a professor in a music class, what do you do when you start singing and all of a sudden it just, puts you into this spiritual state and you can't control the emotion? Usually they're happy tears, but they're tears nonetheless. And she said, well, you do something like think about the laundry you have to do when you get home, or you promise to wax your son's car or something. And I'm hoping that stuff works because there was a time I played in church and I think it was the song Turn, Turn, Turn. It was a famous song that had an parallel to religion. I just couldn't stop crying through it, but I played through the whole song. And the next woman who came up in church to speak at the podium, because at our church, UCC in Oxford, Connecticut, you can sign up to do readings, every Sunday. And this woman was so on the ball, she was a lawyer and very well presented. She said the smartest thing in the world. She comes up and says, now, wasn't that a great presentation? And continued on with the reading. It really saved the day, but it's so easy to lose it. It's hard enough to try to sing and sing correctly, and you can do it. And anybody who plays guitar and has played guitar or piano or anything, you're pretty familiar with sounds, pitches, and that's the only thing that works. It's really your ear for everything. It's worth spending time sharpening up your ear instead of learning scales and this and that. But when I think about playing guitar, I played guitar before I even played bass and went on the road as a blues bass player. And that's really what helped because I learned how to read music right away. And play guitar and get some fingerings and learn a few positions. Even those Alfred books, the more advanced ones, I like to even look in them today and see if I can play them. And, it's really a nice thing to give your kid, when they're 10 or 11 or 12, except I think every kid, it's like, okay, you want a guitar? Let's go to Sears. And at the time, my guitar teacher, Mrs. Pooling, I never really pinpointed the kind of guitar it was, but it was a Gibson Les Paul Jr., a 1959 Sunburst. And she and her husband played in a country band who played a couple times in Quassapog we went to see. And they were really good. And she was the singer. And I could have bought that guitar, but my parents, oh no, it's easier to let's just go to Sears. So I got this Silvertone that's blue, almost the same color as the blue Les Paul that I have in some of my videos. And it was a Silvertone with 4 pickups and a whammy bar. Crazy. I mean, the thing looked like a real Ferrari. But anyhow, I just wanted to say happy birthday to myself, and YouTube is very important to me. One of the other things I did mention, I wanted to change the wiring of that blue Les Paul, which I made reference to a couple of times. And I decided to leave it, especially since I saw an interview or chat with Mr. Hayes, and his Les Paul is wired like this intentionally. So I decided to leave that. And I figure if someone is going to go through the trouble of changing the stock wiring in a Les Paul, generally it's for a really good reason. I just kind of wish they did a better job with the soldering, and I don't want to really try to touch it up and make it worse or have one of the wires get disconnected or something. But anyway, I don't know how long this goes or even if the audio is working. A couple of the other things, I know I make so many comments to other people's videos, and sometimes you can get insulting and not really try. I always had the same problem being a teacher. You try hard not to be insulting to anybody, but you wind up. Sometimes it comes across that way. And this is a funny story. A bass player, Joe, whom my wife and I played with, and then I played with, and I've known him for many years. This guy would try so hard, it's just would make you cry, And he had a nice old Fender bass. And when he came over, he used the amp that I used on the road, which was, I think, 3 actual cabinets and a nice GK top and a rack. And so he really dug it and took it so seriously, but we got into a hassle at a practice. Those things happen. And to look me up, this guy just, found me on the internet and rode his motorcycle over. I didn't know who it was, and he took his helmet off. And I was just leaving the house because I wanted to go get some Chinese food down the hill. And, I forgot my wallet, so I turned around and I ran into him. And right then I asked him to join as a bass player. And we played together 2 or 3 years, and he was really good. And then over some stupid thing, he said, you can't play at that volume. But anyways, that's a different story. I don't want to digress. This poor guy actually wanted to sing, and it was a simple song. That song, Take a Load Off Fanny, Take a Load for Free, The Weight. It's really cool to have everyone in the band take a verse if they want to. But this guy just wanted to, it was time for him to sing the verse, Take a Load Off Chester or whatever. And I looked at him and I didn't think I was laughing. But, there's an initial smile you make before you start laughing. And I don't know if it's a grin, a sly grin, but that poor boy would never go up to a microphone after that. He thought I was laughing and then trying to catch my wife in peripheral vision here, and we were going to have a good laugh over this. So it's really horrible to do that. Some people in music are very sensitive, and me included. You know, it seems if you are any good at your craft of playing and or singing, it comes from somewhere quite spiritually, and it could engulf this fine line in between laughter and crying. Funny. I'm trying to think of some other things that one thing I want to make a video of. I'll probably actually take the time to set up an actual camera, on a stand to do it. And again, my apologies for usually just using my good old iPhone Mini 12 here. One thing happened with that Corvette that's in a couple of my videos, and it's worth a laugh. I'm trying to laugh it off, but I was using Mother spray in a nice soft cloth, the kind that are recommended today. And at the bottom of the cloth, there was a square of sandpaper. So here I am, la-di-da, making the car all shiny. I scratched the entire car everywhere. And I brought it to a friend of mine who has a nice body shop and auto shop in town, Classic Coach. And he said he could fix it all up for $1,000. And I'm thinking, geez, I already bought everything. He told me I had the wrong mother's compound. He saw the car, he told me start with a wool pad, very, very slow, but you have to get the stuff that has the thermometer that goes up to 10 on the label of the mother's compound, the real cutting stuff. I'm going to try it. I mean, I can't make it any worse than it is. It looks pretty bad. And it's too bad because the paint on the car was pretty good. Funny how those things can happen to you. Oh, well. So from then on in, every time I take a nice acrylic cloth, whatever they're called, I'm just going to go like shaking out a rug or something before I even try to apply any polish. There's so many good videos that I watch, the guitar players who are on YouTube are just really pretty phenomenal. And, like Steve Lukather, and he's such an entertaining person too, to watch him being interviewed. It's really great. And it's very true what he says too. Most of the time, rhythm guitar is where it's at. This band that I just joined, we have a gig coming up in August in New York. It's a 2-hour drive. Since I joined, they seem to really appreciate it. I have a hard time getting around with a right broken ankle. And they're like, okay, you can park here. Can I hold the guitar? You can go down these stairs, or, they're so helpful. But I don't want it to turn into a guitar war with the other guy who it's really his band and he plays, quite well. He knows very much where positioning in keys, and he's not a bad singer. Pretty good singer. The drummer is quite the best part of the band, Leroy. What a good cat. And we use like electric drums, for the rehearsal. This guy is so on the beat. But since I came along, and this is a pretty good lesson, I think, on playing guitar in general. I've had guitar players tell me that a lot of times they play bass parts. L.A. Jones told me that. And it is true. Because a lot of the things we play outside of the chording in general, like Born Under the Bad Sign or, something older Clapton, if I don't really kind of play the bass parts on guitar, well, put it this way, it makes it easier for the bass player who is quite a new bass player. And it just makes his life easier. And this guy's another one who tries so hard. There are some people who just want to be a musician for, I don't know. I do know why, because it really changes your whole life. It gives you a whole different ear that you create, when you're just doing anything, working on a car, working in the yard, meet up with a neighbor. There's just something about being a musician and having put your heart into it for a lot of years. It gives you such a good edge in life, you know. There's something else I wanted to say too. There were some comments that I actually deleted because I realized they were insulting. And one was to, um, sure, now I can remember his name all right. Red Volkert, he's such an accomplished guitar player, and he's half the reason I really got a Telecaster a few years ago. I have a nice one. And I don't really play it that much, but let me just get it. This one is I bought new a couple of years ago, from Sweetwater, and it's a nice Sunburst. It's reminiscent of the older one because, it has those nice three saddles, which are, obviously you never really get the intonation correct. But this had a black pickguard. I think it's not really a reissue of a blackguard, but pretty close. But it's nice. And you talk about everybody with these double stops. It's really, really a hard thing to do and to communicate. Tablature to me is I'd have to spend so much time getting used to it because I've always just read the notes. But after putting two and two together with these double stops, um, I've come to the conclusion the way that I make my D chord, you know, of course, I'm way out of tune. This, that's not a bad form to keep. Uh, most helpful with double stops, because it's easy to go from a chord into a double stop. But even watching Red Volkart explain what he does with double stops, you really don't. I don't have enough intelligence to know 100% what he's talking about. Unless you're standing right on top of the guy while they're playing, you're not really gonna know. And unless you even then can put two and two together what they're doing, because there is a way to explain what they're doing and actually get it concrete enough, where it has some substance. But this, Boy, oh boy, this is like the Twilight Zone today. I just tuned this guitar and it's like, I don't know what's the matter with it. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to show it. This is the reason I got a Telecaster. I mean, Red Volker is really the reason I went and got a Telecaster. And, some of the sounds that these people get, it's really awesome. But I like Strats better, you know? I really do. And in this new band that I'm in, I play a USA Black Stratocaster that my neighbor, Irene, across the street, sold me for $300. She took care of someone who was ailing, who was a musician, and this gentleman left her his house and his guitar collection. But even though she wasn't a musician, it's funny how she tried to pawn off a red Mexican Strat on me. And then as soon as I saw the black one, Corona, California, and the whole thing, I'm like, wow, this is nice. But I don't really like the tilt neck thing. I kind of wish I had an older Strat with just the bolt-on neck. Well, actually, I do. My white Strat is reminiscent of that era. And I have a couple of cheaper Sunburst ones that I kind of just assembled with parts. But getting back to my story of making these insulting comments, I made something insulting once on a Red Volker video. And it was something about he had a fellow lap steel player from Canada. And I thought I was funny, but I meant it was so insulting. It was something to do with, being heavy set and being on stage. I don't even want to try to think of the words, but it was quite insulting. I can't believe that I actually hit send or comment. I felt so bad, and then I deleted it. And then the other one I made was with my friend L.A. Jones, whom I've played on the road with for many years. He restores amps now, and he had this old Fender Bassman, and he's a vegetarian, and he's half the reason I'm a vegetarian and still am. Is he had this nice little Fender Bassman that he restored, but it was too shiny. It really didn't look original, So I knew he kind of bothered him with the finish that he probably did put on it, but he didn't fess up to it. And I left a comment like, geez, LA, how did you get this thing to be so shiny? You applied some bacon grease left over from breakfast. And I thought it was funny. He was so insulted. He emails me back, I'm going to block you from my channel. That wasn't funny. On and on. So I deleted that. And one other insulting one was at Mick Jagger playing an acoustic guitar in the woods. And, anybody who made that video shouldn't have put that up. His being Mick Jagger, it's different if I go up and play and sing flat and hit the wrong chords. But it didn't enhance Mick Jagger's singing, and I made some kind of snotty comment on that one. And then I realized I made another one apologizing, saying, my God, you guys are senior to me. I should respect you instead of being so insulting. My being 71, I feel really old. And these guys are still plugging. And holy moly, I don't know how some people do it. Some other loose ends, what am I thinking of there's a song called Old Oak Tree. I never finished it. And I used that as sort of a lesson, kind of putting my ideas into chords and words. I never finished it. And it's funny, I don't really want to, or I'm not driven to finish it. I don't know why. It's meant to have like an open ended conclusion in sorts. And anyway, if I really had to write a song, if I was under contract or something, I could easily make it into a song. That must be tough if you sign a contract and, you have to come up with material that's going to sell. Or like what the conclusion of all these great studios, or the one or two in California, where a lot of great people like Steve Lukather and Leland Sklar and all these great people, they talk about being there as session musicians and this and that, but you don't really know what it's going to be in the song you're writing that is appealing. And it really could just be such a simple thing the guitar player does. Hard to say. And not even really realize what it's adding, how much it's adding. I kind of really wish I could turn the clock back 25 years and really go on the road with someone big, either as a bass player or a guitar player. I think it would have been really hot shit to have done the tour bus thing. I don't know. And I tried to rationalize it. And, you come up with all kinds of stupid ideas, at least I do. When I was good looking enough, I wasn't good enough. The thing is, you never know you're good enough. And you always have to believe you are. And I wasn't. I was crushed. My older sister thought she was helping me by talking me out of going to not Hart School of Music, but the one in Boston. And I could have gone via a music teacher. He knew I was really interested in music, and we had a good relation. John Puner was his name. A couple of times he asked if he could use a PA, and I made it some kind of stupid excuse. But if I had been more friendly with this guy, I could have had a musical career right here in Connecticut, either as a bass player or a guitar player. It goes to show you that it's hard to feel sorry for yourself after the fact when you're offered kind of a position of sorts. I don't know. Anyway, these people in California, almost all of them say they kind of were at the right place at the right time, or a certain friend and or a bandmate introduced them to James Taylor. It's amazing how James Taylor is just a household word. And he always was, just by the way he plays and sings. It doesn't matter who he signed by, this or that or the other. It's just the way he sounds when he picks up a guitar and plays and sings. What a talent. And I saw his brother, Livingston, and my wife got me backstage passes, us backstage passes, as a birthday gift, actually. And I talked to him and this and that. And he has a nice voice, too. He mostly played piano. And I told him I was a songwriter, but I mean, I didn't want to be like an ass and, overdo it. But he said everything's done on the internet today. And this was like 10 years ago. I never really knew what he meant. And I still really don't. I had my album Lucky Seven on YouTube via a publicist. And all it did was subtract money from a credit card. I didn't have any more viewers or anything. So I started my own YouTube channel almost on purpose so I can include 7 of the songs that are from the album Lucky Seven. And I wouldn't even be able to do it if it weren't for the producer and studio person, Paul Opalak. What a talent he is. And he's right here in Connecticut too, not far from me in Oxford. This guy has an impeccable sense of timing, and he can play the drums and keyboard and adds all kinds of great things and makes just about any kind of stupid idea you have walking in with into a song. Really talented. So he did actually maybe 3 of the songs. 3 of the songs actually were done in California with studio musicians. And it's quite obvious. You can hear like everything is just so perfect and not overdone. It's nice to be talented. Anyway, I am going to wish myself luck, and please wish me luck. I hope when I go to play the song Thank You in church today as an offertory that I don't burst into tears. And the other thing is, it's hard for me now. It's finger picking I'm doing on this acoustic guitar. So that's, I think, what's going to save me, because I don't really have it written in stone the chords exactly I'm going to be playing with this finger picking business. But I'm mostly playing off of a D chord, the way I make my D chords once again, and turning the D chord into adding the G note, which I could do easily with my 3rd ring finger, because the D chord's made with these 2 fingers. And, I do that. Then I'm going to use my pinky to stretch to the A note. That's part of it. And I'm finger picking it. I have my own style. I wish I could even explain it. But as I try to watch finger pickers who are trying to teach their craft, I'm like, holy nipples. How can you ever learn this? Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up. And you would think that Sunday would be a completely peaceful and holy day, being church day, but I make a joke of this. My poor wife, she's older than I am, and she just doesn't really look good since she had shoulder surgery. Something had to have happened in that surgery. She looks like she aged 10 years. But it makes me appreciate her more, etc. And, it's hard to always make someone's day good and happy. I still haven't learned how to do that. But it's funny, on Sunday, I say to her, Martha, you're like a Gestapo tromping up and down the hall, seeing how ready I am getting for church. But, yeah, so I'm going to get ready for church, and I really hope I can seriously pull this off. I not only am playing my new song, Thank You, which is an emotional song, I'm doing a reading. So I have my hands full as a performer, and I really hope I don't flop. And we're lucky we have some good talent in this church. Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope this really turned into something that is going to work and it got recorded or whatever. But thank you very much for joining me on my birthday. Okay. And see you later, alligator. Goodbye, all.